Welcome back to episode 14 of Switch Point, and I'm back. Very excited to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 here with Saras today. How's it going, Saras?
Glad to be here. I'm good to be back. I'm doing great. I've been having a blast with the Nintendo Switch 2 so far.
It's a very fun time, and I think that the discussion online's been pretty funny. Just from people who may have not been in tune with the Switch community and talking about, what we wanted from this console. For me, it's like this console has been everything I wanted. I wanted a better Switch. Great. I got it. I'm awesome. I'm super set. And this was what I wanted. But it's been funny to see people online complain and cry. It's like, no, dude, like all the games run great. I have no complaints.
Same here. I mean, I've been mostly playing a lot of third-party games. I've been playing a little bit of the first-party support with Mario Kart World. But aside from a few issues here and there, as you said, it's everything I wanted and more. I didn't really need any huge innovations. I just wanted, like you said, a better Switch. And I think the Switch 2 exceeds, and judging by the recent sales statistics, everyone else agrees.
Right, right. So, okay, I'm curious. Let's kind of kick things off today talking about the console itself. So, what are we're 2 weeks in now. So, what are your impressions of, I know we just kind of gave our overview, but what are your impressions of like the console as a whole, the user experience, and, the new features that were, marketed as like, the big and the new Switch 2 kind of, Nintendo highlights, I guess.
So, right out of the box, obviously, after installing and transferring all of my data from the original Switch, a few things kind of stuck out to me. One was the user interface itself. I think it's very, very nice. On the surface, it may not seem too different from the original Switch, but I think the, different sounds of each of the buttons kind of creates this more charming experience. All the different menus are nice, and as for what was promised and what we were given, obviously the first thing you're gonna notice is the improved visuals. The handheld mode looks smooth as butter. I've tested it out with a few games, and the improved FPS is way more noticeable. Even if it's not, the screen handheld screen is 1080p, which may not sound like much in the grand scheme of things, but it's very impressive. And like I said, the improved frame rate is just, oh, it's so good. It's so good, especially with Mario Kart and things like that. The other thing it took me a bit to test out was the mouse controls. They are very situational. I haven't really used them that much. I'm not really a mouse guy, but the option being there and testing it out with games like Cyberpunk and even Fortnite is just really nice, and it's a great option for players. Overall, I think the features of the console are strong, both in docked and handheld mode, and just the feeling of the console in your hands is night and day compared to the original Switch and other handheld systems like the Steam Deck. How about you? What did you think right out of the box of the Nintendo Switch 2?
So, gosh, I had a really tough time with my Switch too. I know people are in the comments be like, "You got to do that though." But so I was at Summer Game Fest in LA, and I got in on Wednesday. My Switch obviously came in on Thursday morning at like 5 a.m.
Yeah, same.
and I did not get to see it. It sat in my room for however long until I got home on Tuesday. But I was like, man, I was so jealous because everyone at SGF was just talking about, oh man, I played Mario Kart the whole way here on my 6 hour plane ride. I'm like, oh, dude. But regardless, I was really excited when I got home. I like, got in, unpacked, and then I opened and got to the Switch 2. And yeah, I mean, I think the real thing that stuck out to me is like the Switch itself, I definitely think that it felt nice, but it never really felt premium. Now, I will say I do think that changed with the OLED. I'm someone who did get the OLED model. I think that the OLED model felt a lot nicer than the original Switch, and felt much more of like a premium feel. But the original Switch just felt like, okay, this is like, not cheap, but like, it's I understand why people call it like a kiddish, right? Like, kid-like, childlike device because it feels very cheaply made. And, I'm not dissing Nintendo or anything. I think the Switch was a great device, obviously, but I definitely think that it was not the same in terms of the OLED or the Switch 2. And I think the Switch 2 feels even better than the OLED did. And really, the Joy-Con, you look at that right away, like the plastic and the feel of the plastic that they used just feels so much better. And I think that, the bigger buttons, right? The bigger buttons, the bigger joysticks in the inside, right? I really think the shoulder buttons on the inside, they are so much nicer, like ZL and ZR, or SL, I think it is, SLSR. Like they're so much nicer than they were on the Switch. Like they were these tiny little bumpers, right? And anyone with big hands, like I have pretty big hands, like it was not fun playing with that. But I think the Switch 2 fixed a lot of that. And, I want to talk also about like the magnets. Like it's the most satisfying thing to click those in and out. Like I have a problem right now of just like when I'm playing in handheld, oh, let me unclip it, clip it back in. It just feels so nice. And, with the Switch itself, yeah, I mean, I think you hit the point on like the console itself, the screen looks amazing. I think people laugh at 1080p, but it's also funny to me. It's like you have to realize like on a screen that small, 1080p looks exceptional. And, we saw a lot of games on Switch and handheld, even at 720p that look great, but the upgrades for Switch 2 have been unbelievable. I've played so many games. I mean, I'm doing like 6 reviews right now, but I've played so many games. And honestly, I've been so impressed going back with the games Nintendo upgraded. I actually am someone who I bought Splatoon 3 on release day and it stayed inside like the case. I never opened the case. And I finally took the plastic off and just slotted it into my Switch this past weekend. And I was like, wow, like this looks amazing. Like it looks night and day. And same thing for Mario Odyssey, same thing for all the other games. But beyond the games, I think that the technology that they're using is very impressive. And I definitely, I would have liked a little more impressive user experience, some achievements. I still can't believe that's not a thing. But I do think that it's a huge improvement over the Switch simply for the fact that there's not lag when you go inside some of the menus. Like Switch Online and Switch eShop are like perfect now, and they were not. They were laggy as crap on the Switch. So I'm really excited. I've had a really fun 2 weeks with it, but I'm definitely looking forward to all the games and stuff that are coming out soon.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you hit the nail on the head with everything, especially the magnets. I've been fiddling around with the magnet ejector kind of for pretty
It's
much
a
all the
problem.
time. Yeah, it just feels so smooth, and it's such a difference compared to the slot in of the original Switch. I don't want to do the whole, oh, old is bad and new is good, but when you actually directly compare the two, it this feels like the ultimate fulfillment of what the Switch concept was always meant to be.
Right.
And yeah, I couldn't be happier with it. I actually had a quick question for you. Who
hmm
was the one that where did you get your Switch from? I know it didn't arrive immediately because
Walmart.
you were at SGF. Yeah, Walmart. Same. Did you get a Coke bottle with yours?
Yeah, I got Coke and Pringles, and yeah, it was really weird. My brother and I, we both got one, and so he sent me a picture of him drinking a Coke, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna assume that they dropped a Coke off too, and then I got some pictures of some Pringles. I was like, cool. I think it's a pretty fun gesture from Walmart. I thought it was. I mean, they probably fulfilled, hundreds of thousands of units, so pretty cool they did that. But it was definitely really random. Like I was like, interesting. But no, yeah, I got mine from Walmart, and I'm really jealous because I talked to someone who did. I think it was Target, and they got theirs on Tuesday, and I'm like, dang man. But I would not have been home. I was traveling out of the country. So I got back to the US on Wednesday in LA. So I wasn't gonna be able to get one anyways, but yeah, I'm glad I got mine, but I definitely kind of like pseudo celebrated launch day by, talking to all these people like, "Oh yeah, it's so great, man. It's so great." But
Yeah,
I did play it at SGF. I did get to check out a couple games on Switch too. So,
hey, that's something at least. At least you got to have a taste of the experience before you got to fully invest
right,
time into
right.
it. Uh, yeah, I've been loving the console. There are so many little features that I've yet to discover. I think, you know, can't all be perfect. I don't think there is such thing as a perfect console these days. There are one or two little things that I have issue with. I think the biggest one by far is that we are now 8 years into the Switch legacy at this point, and we still don't have any themes.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean, I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know if we ever will get themes. I hope we do. Even the lack of eShop music just feels kind of a bummer. Um, all the new sounds they added are great, but I would have loved to have actual music playing when you navigate all the menus. Adds more of that charm from even back in 3DS, and that was something I always had issue with the Switch, and I'm a little disappointed that that wasn't added in, but now we got
Yeah,
probably 7 more years of the Switch too, so who knows?
I think I will say I definitely am disappointed by it too, but I think it has been a concerted effort from Nintendo to conserve memory resources because the Switch OS only takes up 3 gigabytes of RAM, and I don't think it's final yet, but they're working to make that 2 gigabytes to have 10 gigabytes remaining for games. And if you add themes on top of that, that takes up memory. And I think that with, let's say music too and this and that, Nintendo's approach is just to make it as light as possible so the OS and the user experience layers just function. They're extremely functional, quick, responsive, but they're not bloated. And that's kind of the compromise we get. But I will say it is really unfortunate that you can't customize your console, but it's nice that like we're getting games running better than they would have if we had those features.
That is true. I suppose that is the trade-off, is that instead of getting these sort of extra user interface features, all of those features go instead into the games. And I remember when you and I were first talking about the Nintendo Switch 2, all the way back, I think, with the very first Switch Point episode, we were talking about the concept of gimmicks and whether or not the Switch 2 even needed a gimmick. And one, I think it has plenty of gimmicks. I think the mouse controls alone are kind of the, not that the Joy Cons don't have motion controls anymore, but I think the mouse controls are sort of an evolution of that, as it's compatible with
Hmm.
quite a few games. Um, but even still, I never needed a new gimmick that is absolutely crazy, like a second screen or even a camera built in, because the Switch is perfect, right? I think the Switch is a near perfect console, and the Switch 2 improves on borderline almost everything I had issue with the original console. I mean, I've had my Switch since 2017. I haven't upgraded at all. I have the Odyssey one, which is with the red coloring on it. And
Hmm.
I love it. I will always love it. But, I look at it like that sort of Toy Story meme of the I don't want to play with you anymore. So yeah, I'm glad. I'm so glad to have this new system. And again, it's really hard for me to think of anything that I would do completely different or anything that I would say, "Oh, I hate this about the console." Is there anything for you that genuinely frustrates you about this new system?
Um, I don't think so for right now. Um, Again, the one thing that I will say is frustrating for me is no achievements. Like I still don't understand that. I don't know why that hasn't happened. Um, So I would say that's a frustration for me. But in terms of everything else, no. And, I agree with you. We had that conversation, and gosh, it felt like forever ago at this point,
Yeah.
but about kind of just gimmicks and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Switch 2 has multiple, but yeah, the mouse controls, like, I feel like that Nintendo, I know Drag X Drive is a thing, but I think that Nintendo is probably going to be creating, a game that is really focused on that in the next coming years, and that will really kind of take shape. But from what I've seen, it's like, I think there's a legitimate use for them. Like I got startled at first because I put it sideways and all of a sudden I had a mouse cursor on my Switch screen. I was like, what in the but it worked. It works well, and I tested it in Fortnite with the mouse controls, and it's definitely weird, but like it works. Like it really works, and it shouldn't work, but it does, and it's just weird that it like exists at all.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many features that I have yet to experiment with. I really haven't had a chance to play around with the game chat yet. Most of my
That's great
time,
too.
is it really? Because I've mostly been
Yeah,
playing it with friends on like Discord and stuff. But
yeah. So I was playing Mario Kart a couple nights ago with a couple friends, and I told them I booted them off, and I was like, let's try the game chat thing. And so we all hopped on the game chat, and I was honestly like, I was pretty impressed by the. So it is really funny in motion seeing like the 6 FPS screens shared. It's really funny, but it's like so responsive and quick and very intuitive. And the thing I was impressed by the most is actually the microphone. It's definitely quiet if you're all the way across the room or your switch is like behind something and your voice can't directly hit it, but I still was able to like hear everyone with the game. And I had a friend of mine, like, his roommate just banged a bunch of pots in the background, and like we couldn't hear him because the video broadcast is being used and it silences all the sounds except for voices. So I was pretty impressed. I think that it's impressive technology, and I think it's going to be really nice to be able to kind of, like, let's say, okay, I'm playing with someone across the world. Let's just hop on the game chat and like we can share a game and play. Like that's super cool.
yeah, definitely. And that sort of feature is great. I think arguably the most controversial quote unquote feature of the Switch 2, because I don't know if I'd really call it a feature, but it's something a lot of people are talking about, which is the game key cards.
Yeah, no, we
And
don't like those.
yeah, it's something I'm conflicted about because I'm always someone that usually purchases games digitally, which I know is a borderline crime in today's climate, but yeah, I it's not something I've really noticed or bothered me too much. I think the biggest problem with it isn't the system itself, it's the fact that a lot of companies have not bothered to compress their files for the most part. I downloaded quite a few third party games right out of the gate, and already my the 256 SD card that came with the console within a day was almost out of storage.
Yep.
So I got a second one, as you do, and that one is also almost out of storage too. So yeah,
That's an issue for me too. I think I understand, and I think 256 is great considering Nintendo games are all like under 20 gigabytes. But considering that we've got games like Split Fiction that are like almost 90 gigabytes on the Switch, and that's not even the fault of the developers. I do think, I will say, full thoughts coming soon, but I do think that that port could have been better than it is. I don't think it's a bad port, but I think it could have been better. That includes optimization. But I definitely think that 256 gigabytes is not enough, and it should have been 512.
yeah, I completely agree. And I understand that this is still a relatively new technology, and I guarantee you, when we inevitably get a Switch to OLED, or even as this technology becomes more mainstream, more and more people will probably
Mm-hmm.
start making the 512. But out of the gate, it's not great. And if you're like me, trying to get as many games as possible off the Switch 2, games like Street Fighter or Hitman or Yakuza, you're going to be very quickly running out of storage, which I need for certain games that are coming out sooner rather than later. But as a whole, I think that's probably my biggest issue. I think everything
I
I
agree.
have held so far with the console, everything I observed with just the console, not even taking into consideration the games, is very impressive. And it's probably going to be my main console for quite a few years. There are certain games that I really want to see how they run on it. One of the biggest games shown off during Summer Game Fest was 007 First Light, and that is coming to the Switch too. And I'm very excited for that game, but there is a very small part of me that kind of wants to get it on the Switch too, instead of my more powerful like PlayStation 5, because to me, the trade off of it looking not as good as the PlayStation 5 version compared to being able to play a game like that on the go is worth it. But, we'll see how it looks in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, but that's the thing I think, like, I've seen people online cry and complain about, and it's like, no, like, we got to step back because when you buy a Switch, right, you know that it's a portable console. It's a portable console that can also be a home console. And yes, there are going to be some compromises here and there, but I will say I do think with Switch 2, the compromise gap has shrunk drastically from what it was for Switch. And, like take Split Fiction, for example, that game runs really well. The compromise, it runs at 30 FPS instead of 60 because it's a 2025 game. But at the end of the day, it's like for me, yeah, I get to play that portably. It's not that noticeable because it's really fluid on the 120 hertz display. Okay, great, But I think for a lot of people, that's the kind of going to be the decision. And, for me, I really want the Switch 2 to be my main console. I do. Just the ability to play all these games wherever. It's amazing. But the big deciding factor for me, it's going to be okay, does this game need, that visual fidelity, like sit on your couch for the entire time, right? If it does, I'll probably play it on the review station. But if I need to play something and I just want to play it however I want, I'll probably get it on the Switch. But again, I do think that that gap has drastically shrunk. And I'm really looking forward to, seeing how a lot of these upcoming games run and seeing the reactions of people. There's a couple coming out in the winter that have been announced. That there's one in particular that I'm eagerly awaiting because I cannot wait for it to run just as well as PS5 and to hear the from a bunch of people.
I think I know which game that is. Um,
Yeah, it might have a character that rhymes with loud. So I don't know, but it's going to be great, and I promise you that this stuff is going to run awesome on the Switch. The developer, like, I feel like it speaks for itself. All these developers coming out at the beginning with third party support. I know there was that report that came out that, oh, the games aren't selling as well as they think. It's so early on. Like, it's so hard to really compare. And also, we have to take into account, like, people did not buy a Nintendo Switch 2 for those games. They bought it for Mario Kart. And I think you have to look at the legs of those sales and kind of look and see what's going on in, maybe September, right? But I think it's way too early to judge if it's a success or a failure for third parties. And also, it's already been confirmed that it's way bigger for third parties than Switch 1 ever was. So I think that's a good sign.
yeah, and I also think that we also got to think about the games themselves that are available, the third party games,
Right.
because all the ones released, they're not new games. These are games
Nope.
that have been around for, in some cases, almost 10 years. Like No Man's
Right.
Sky got a Switch 2 port, which is a free upgrade, granted, but, other things like Hitman, or, as you mentioned, Split Fiction, Street Fighter, and who really in the Switch's target audience is going to right out of the gate saying, "Oh, I want to buy Hitman: World of Assassination," other than me, who happens to be a big Hitman fan.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna say it's just gonna be the hardcore fans. Like, I got some review copies for some games, but like, I even myself picked up begrudgingly picked up the game key cart for Bravely Default simply because I love that game on 3DS and I want to support that. And that's pretty much it. And like with Street Fighter, you know, absolutely excited for that to be on a handheld. And I mean, it's crazy that it is, but again, like we have to remember people listening to this, whether you buy 10 games a year or you buy, seven, you're still in the minority of the market because most people only buy, 2 to 4 games a year. So,
yeah, and a lot of these games are games that people have played or beaten already. Hitman,
and they're full priced.
yeah, exactly, right? Hitman has been around for a very long time. I don't even remember when Hitman 1 released on PlayStation 4. I think it's also been 10 years for that almost. And, I've played all three games and I've beaten all three games. And I'm more than happy to play it again on the Switch too. But most people buying the console are probably not going to pick it up because it's not for them. And if you're buying the console and see Hitman and you're a fan of Hitman, you're probably also not going to buy it because you've beaten it on other consoles. So I think as more newer games come out, that gap will start, those games will start selling better. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, only a matter of time before that comes to the Switch too. I think that will do very well on the console. And
And it
also,
will run better than Steam Deck.
undoubtedly, it'll run better than Steam Deck. And, other big games that will come out soon, Persona 4 Revival or Metaphor or Persona 3 Reload, all those games will all be available on Switch too. And as those start to release, then I think those will start doing better than what people expected. I will say it does not surprise me in the slightest that Cyberpunk 2077 is apparently the best selling third party game on the Switch 2 because that game on the console is awesome. It is. I've been playing a lot of that, and there are some shots that look borderline identical to the PlayStation 5 version. It is so impressive, and that's been one of my favorite games to play, and I'm excited to do like 50 more playthroughs of it.
Yeah, no. So I think, for Cyberpunk, a big part of that with the physical also really impressive, but also it's all on the cartridge, which is a rarity, which is stupid, but it's a rarity nowadays. But beyond that, I want to jump in to games. So you hit up let's start with Cyberpunk. So I'll give my Cyberpunk story. I think I've given it before on the channel at some point. So, I was a day one adopter, day zero. I pre-ordered the game. I was so excited. And I launched the game on my PC and it ran at 18 frames per second. I turned off ray tracing, it ran at 14 frames per second. So I gave up. I tried again over a year later, and the game still ran like crap. And semi recently, like maybe a year ago, I tried again once I built. I guess it's a little longer than a year ago, but I tried again, and when I built my new PC, and it still ran like crap. So I've never played it. So I'm actually really looking forward. I picked up the physical. I'm really looking forward to checking it out on Switch 2. I have to say Switch 2. But yeah, I mean, everything I've seen, it looks absolutely incredible compared to the PlayStation 5 version or even the Xbox Series X version.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my own Cyberpunk story is very similar. I pre ordered it, I got it on the PlayStation. It was technically the PlayStation 4 version, but at that point I had the PlayStation 5, so it was basically for that. And it was so buggy and it was so glitchy, and but I still loved it. I had a great time with the gameplay. Um, Primitive as it was, I had a I loved the story. I thought it was fantastic, and I played it a lot back when it first came out. Um, you know, there were certain features that I was really hoping they would add in the years ahead. I really wanted a new game plus. We still don't have a new game plus, but you know, I don't think we need it per se. Um, but when Phantom Liberty came out, I dove right back in, and Cyberpunk became arguably probably one of my favorite games of all time after that improvement. The DLC story and all the new features, and the fact that it actually runs well and feels great to play on the PlayStation 5 was just so nice. And I've bought it on Steam Deck and I liked it on Steam Deck, but compared to that, the Switch 2 version is just so much better. I've been playing both on handheld and in docked mode. Handheld looks great. Surprisingly, it looks really good. I have it in performance mode at the moment, and there are certain, you know, visual idiosyncrasies. Certain characters far away look kind of jumbled. And there's a few odd glitches. I was walking around the street and a car fell from the sky, which is, you know, normal in Night City, I guess. But yeah, in docked mode, it looks borderline indistinguishable from the next gen consoles in some frames. That's been the one that I've been reviewing the most for the Switch 2, and it is. I know that I'm going to spend a lot of time on it. It's going to destroy my battery, but it'll be worth it because it is so good. It's taking one of my favorite games and putting it on a console that is very accessible. So that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that's all, that's the whole goal, I think, of games getting ported over to Switch too, is like, there's so many games on PlayStation 4 and PS5 that like I think deserve a chance to be portable, and they're just not right now. Like I don't, Steam Deck, I don't care. And with Switch too, it's like I really think we're getting to the point that many of these games that just skip Switch are going to come here and run great. Like I'll give you an example of one that I'm holding out hope for, and I do think it's going to happen. Is Death Stranding, and I do think that that's going to come over to Switch. It came to Xbox. It's on every platform. It came to iOS, for crying out loud. Same thing for Resident Evil, right? The remakes. I think all those games are going to come to Switch too, and I think they're going to run great. And I'm going to be there day one to buy them because they're some of my favorite games. And the fact that you could just play them wherever you go is awesome. That's the beauty of the Switch.
Yeah, I mean, Death Stranding would be great. Resident Evil 4, or yeah, all the remakes, as you said, would be awesome. I mean, even beyond the remakes, I'd love to see 7, 8, and certainly 9 on the Switch 2 when that comes
I
out.
think I think it'll happen. I really do. I think I don't nine Requiem is interesting. Just I will say, as someone who saw like 30 minutes of footage of it at Summer Game Fest, it is very heavily using ray tracing, which Switch 2 is capable of. So I don't know. They would have to really custom make that port to work. And I think that they will if the other games sell well. But I do think that like, Resident Evil Remake 2, 3, 4, and then 7 and 8, like all those games, they're gonna come. And Capcom's gonna open the floodgates.
Yeah, I think absolutely Capcom will be one of the biggest supporters. Kind of on a similar subject to Kojima, but I'd also love to see some of the Metal Gear Solid games, you know, the remake for one, but honestly,
Absolutely.
more than that, Silent Hill, you know, Silent Hill 2 remake on the Switch 2, or the new Silent Hill F on the Switch 2 would be great. I think, you know, there's a lot of horror potential on a console like that. And, I hope we get a lot of classic franchises come out of the woodwork. You know, a new Fatal Frame would be great, but that's for the
Yeah.
first party discussion. Um, so what's another third party game you've been playing lately that has really stuck out to you with its Switch 2 capabilities?
Oh God. I've played so much, dude. Just playing stuff here and there. I think one of them that was really one of them that was really surprising for me was Fortnite. And I know that that's like, oh, haha, Fortnite. But like, if you played Fortnite on Switch, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I remember playing it after E3 2018 to be like, oh, this is amazing. And then they released that graphics update for it with UE5, completely overhauled the look of the game. And the Fortnite version, like, literally looked like a PS2 version. And seeing it run on Switch 2 now, it's super fluid, 60 FPS. It runs awesome. I definitely, you can tell that the visuals aren't as crisp and pristine as they are on something like a PlayStation 5. But the fact of the matter is, it's a portable console that's playing that game at 1080p 60. I'm not complaining, you know?
Yeah, I've also been playing quite a bit of Fortnite. And I did try the original version on the original Switch not that long ago. Personally, I'm not good at battle royale games, so I actually fiddled around with some of the extra modes, namely Fortnite Festival, which is the sort of rock band Guitar Hero esque mode,
Yeah, yeah,
and it literally will not open on the original Switch. It is
yeah.
impossible to play. Whereas here, it feels great. I mean, it's probably one of my favorite modes, and it's been a fun guilty pleasure to kind of reignite my old Guitar Hero phase I had back in middle or elementary school. So yeah, that's been one of my favorites. I've been playing around with the new battle pass, and honestly, I'm kind of tempted to just delete the PlayStation 5 version I have, because the difference in visuals between the PlayStation 5 and the Switch 2 version of Fortnite don't matter to
It's
me.
negligible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really don't care. I don't need Fortnite to look like this super good game with the, vibrating triggers or whatever. It really does. I could not care less. So, this is easily going to be my definitive way to play that game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I know you had to play for your goat Superman.
Yeah, you should know
But
that I'm a
it's
very big Superman fan.
yeah, I'm not too hot on this season personally, but I don't really play much, just every once in a while. But I am very impressed with its ability to render what it does at the level it does. So that's been great for third parties. And then I also another game that I finally got around to buying, I guess semi recently, was Near Automata on Switch. So that game is in desperate need of an upgrade. I'm just gonna put it out. Like, please, Square Enix, like, there's so many games I think of that need upgrades so badly. Like, Nier runs at like 720p 30. Like, it's fine. Like, it's so impressive for Switch, but like, guys, let's please port Nier Replicant and let's make Nier 1080p 60. Thank you. Um, but I will say, I've been playing Street Fighter 6 quite a bit, and that game really, really impressed me. Capcom did a really great job with the port. One of the things that they kind of leveraged, you can kind of tell, they use quite a bit. So, Switch is equipped with DLSS technology. There's definitely quite a bit of DLSS use, especially in the backgrounds. And as a result, the game runs at 1080p 60 locked. Like, you don't have any dips whatsoever. The frame rate is awesome. But the backgrounds, some of them can look a little muddy, but it's nothing that's like super noticeable unless you're really looking there. But I'm really happy that this came to Switch. I hopped on. I got Street Fighter 6 at launch, played like 40 hours, kind of got off the train, came back for Akuma, hopped off the train, and then my Shiranui got announced. I was like all in, let's go, game on. And I played, that was like really a really busy time for the website and just with everything going on in my life. And so I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to. So I'm glad that, they've got mine and all this stuff on the Switch. So it gives me an excuse to kind of play again. But it's really good. The character models look great. The gameplay is really fun. And, they have these two exclusive Nintendo Switch 2 modes. Like, I don't think they're amazing. They're just kind of just there, but I mean, they're fun enough. It's like, throw away stuff, but whatever.
Yeah, definitely. You actually bought me Street Fighter 6 for my birthday,
I
which I
did.
was
I
very
did. Yeah.
appreciative of. And so I did play a little bit of that, and I really liked it as well. I also got Street Fighter 6 on or around launch. I played a little bit more when Ed and Terry came out because they were the two
Hmm.
characters I was most interested in, and I thought they were very fun. And playing again on the Switch 2 was great. I'm probably at some point soon gonna invest more time into that. Maybe do a full rerun of the World Tour mode. Who knows? I'm not personally too excited about the new fighter pack. The characters there are not really.
Uh, it's it's cool. There's a couple. I think they're good choices, but like I don't think it's anything that really makes me be like, wow, this is awesome. When they showcased Terry, I was like, oh my god. And then they announced Mario. I was like literally standing up in the YouTube theater, like just in awe. Like wow, this is like incredible. But yeah, nothing really got that. I thought the trailer was great, but I definitely am hoping for season year 4 to be a little more exciting with maybe another guest character or two. Because I mean, the fact that we got one now makes me think we can get another, and I would like to see someone from Capcom specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy with the love for Third Strike. We got Elena in year 2, and now we're getting Alex. But I kind of want them to dip further because Sagat and Alex aren't really new per se. I mean, we've got
Right.
both characters in 5. Sea Viper is great. I think that was a big surprise. I'm happy to see her back. But there are certain characters from Third Strike that have really, really, really need to come back. Sean, Makoto, Q.
Makoto would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, Makoto would be great. I'd even take she's also would be coming back from 5, but I loved her role in 5. I think Sakura would be awesome in the new RE engine, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a conversation for another
For
fighting
another
game
time.
podcast. Yeah.
For sure. What podcast we don't yet have, but maybe someday. So
Yes.
so Street Fighter 6 really fun on Switch too. Another one that I've been playing, I talked a little bit about it, Split Fiction. Overall, good port. I definitely think it could have been better. I would have really liked to see them push for a 40 FPS mode with the portable display. But 30 is fine. It's still really playable, really great game, and I didn't feel like I was missing anything with that. And then also, I also have been playing Bravely, Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster. Thank you, Square Enix, for the long title. Really great game. Highly recommend. It's a very classic RPG, JRPG. And, if you're a fan of kind of like the older school Final Fantasies and stuff like that, I mean, I really do recommend checking that one out. It's really fun. And I think they did a great job with the remaster. I don't know, I would assume if you like anime, you've seen, Shingeki no Kyojin, Attack on Titan. The one of the guys that has sang some of the opening and ending songs, Linked Horizon, is actually a band made by Revo, a composer, and Revo did the music for Bravely Default, and it's incredible. So I really recommend it for the soundtrack alone. But it's a really great time, and I'm definitely looking forward to chugging along. It's a meaty game, so it'll keep you occupied until the game we got to talk about next, which is DK Bonanza.
Yes. Well, before DK Bonanza, do we also want to talk about the other big Nintendo elephant in the
Oh my
room?
gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we totally just skipped over like the whole point of many people buying a Switch 2, which is Mario Kart World.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so Saras, I'll let you kick this one off. I mean, it's a new Mario Kart. It's a great time, but I definitely think you and I both kind of have some thoughts about like where this entry did really well and where it kind of fell behind.
Yeah, so I should note right out of the gate that I am not really a Mario Kart fan. I've played a little bit of
Get
it
out.
on I know, like off the Nintendo podcast. Yeah, I think the main entry I played a lot of was the one for the Wii. I played a little bit of the one for the DS, which was just called Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart DS. I never picked up 8 Deluxe until a few years ago, just to, play it with friends. And even when the trailers were coming out for 8 Deluxe, I was not really that hooked on it. It looked great, it looked fun, but it didn't look like enough of a big push for the series compared to, what could be. And I think World was exactly what I was looking for, partly due to the overhauled art style and the new mechanics and, the open world element, which is
Mm-hmm.
hit or miss. But even the, really bizarre characters were really charming. And so it was a no brainer to get the day one, the Switch 2 and Mario Kart World bundle, partly because it looked fun, partly so I could save $30, um, because it is an $80 game. But with the Switch 2 bundle, it is technically $50. So, I'll take the win I can get. And yeah, it is really fun. It has problems to be sure, but I've been playing a lot of it with friends and even by myself. I beat the Grand Prix. I got to Rainbow Road. Rainbow Road's really good. And in general, all of the course designs are awesome. Arguably some of the best courses in the series. The characters are great. I main Pauline because I have a soft spot for Odyssey. And but even the new characters, I have some friends of mine who are always complaining, like, why didn't they bring back the Koopalings? We don't need the
Mm-hmm.
Koopalings, in my
No.
opinion. I think,
No.
the Cataquack, the cow, the Sting Bee. I have a friend who mains Swoop the Bat of all people. So I think those additions are great. And honestly, I think my new favorite mechanic, it took me a while to get used to the wall run, and I still haven't figured it out, honestly. Um, and the track grinding is a bit specific. I haven't used that much either. The new items are kind of okay. And the balance. Oh my god, the balance is diabolical in this game. It
Yeah.
is it is absolutely insane. It is probably the most absurd balancing for a Mario Kart game since the Wii, because I swear I will get hit by lightning every 5 minutes. And if I'm hit with even a single red shell in first place, 14 people pile in front of me, and
I
I am
know.
already in 15th place. And it is the
But
worst.
that's the meta, bro. That's the
It's
meta.
so fun. I love it.
No, like it's so great, dude, because I was telling a friend of mine we were racing and he fell to like I fell to like 20th and he was like making fun of me. I said, "No, dude, I'm gonna be in first. Watch." And you just bank up items when you're like 20th. And I got like the golden mushroom and bullet bill and I just ripped it and I got to first place and won. Like
Yeah,
the meta is ridiculous. It's definitely the balance is definitely something to be talked about, but I do think it really keeps you on your toes way more than Mario Kart 8 did.
definitely. I completely agree with that, even from the little I played in Mario Kart 8. Honestly, though, I think my favorite new feature, and it's one that I've seen some discussion on, but it's something I've really enjoyed, was the transitioning from one map to another.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I really enjoy. I really enjoy getting to drive to the next course. I think it's a really fun feature, and seeing the environment around you, which has it's basically a course in of itself, because there is so much charm in every ounce of the design, from the trucks you can completely take over to the different details like the Yoshi's serving food, or the Rosalina bus tours, which you can apparently follow everyone to their destination, see them get out, see them get in a car, and follow them to wherever they go, which there's no houses in this game. Where did they even go? But, I loved it. I loved the details. I think my favorite map or course in the game, aside from Rainbow Road, is probably Starview Peak, which is a whole
Wonderful.
galaxy
Yeah.
reference. And the water physics in this game
Mm-hmm.
are sublime. I love the water in this game, and when it especially has like a light under it, it's so good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really great. And I think all the courses are really awesome. Like I really do like them. And I agree with you. I like driving between the courses. I think it's different, which is good. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. You've got to innovate somewhere. And I think that this was a good decision by Nintendo to kind of push the series forward in a new way that people might not have expected. And, with that, I also think that, my biggest problem with the game comes with the open world. I love that you can drive all over and anywhere. It's great. But I do have an issue with, like, price aside, which is a discussion in itself. I just think the way this was marketed, being open world and stuff, the free roam, I really would have wanted more from it. I wanted stuff with single player, I wanted more interesting ways to unlock characters, and that just wasn't there. And I get it, Mario Kart is primarily a multiplayer experience. I 100% understand. But considering the asking price and just the, overall kind of kick off to Switch 2, I definitely would have liked to see more single player stuff in here.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of people have been comparing it to, even before the game came out, there was a lot of discussions about it being a Forza like, or even now, the biggest quote unquote competitor for the Mario Kart world is Sonic, is it Racing Crossworlds?
Crossworlds, yeah.
Yeah,
Which that game's
and
fun.
yeah, it
Just
looks
saying.
great, but I would have liked more open world options. Honestly, I think the biggest comparison I would have wanted them to, or inspirations to pull from, would have been, of all things, Crash Team Racing and the Crew. In the
Yeah.
case of Crash Team Racing, which has a hub world, but different levels and almost boss fights that you have to outrace, and once you outrace them, you get their, not just their the character, but also their car.
Right.
And having something like that, which is kind of what they did with Grand Prix, but with a little more pizzazz. Maybe instead of picking a Grand Prix from a menu, you can actually go to the Grand Prix start line within the open world. I think that'd be very nice, um, just so it's more streamlined. And what they offer in the open world itself, with the question mark blocks and the puzzle switches, are fine, but it's not enough. And also, getting there is a pain. I mean, it's pretty nightmarish having to figure out how to get there using just the limited controls of your cart. I would have
Right.
loved some like different, where you can like straight up switch to the plane mode, and almost like a air cap style from 64, where you could just kind of glide around and enjoy that. That would be cool for the next game. Completely different vehicles, planes and boats that specifically are good at that one thing. But that's another discussion. In general, I think it's a fine option, and I enjoy it just for driving around. Honestly, though, if it is supposed to be a relaxing experience, there is one specific thing that is both this game's greatest strength and greatest weakness. The soundtrack of Mario Kart World is
Yep.
incredible. It is really, really, really good. It is easily the best Mario Kart soundtrack, and some of the pulls they made for the remixes in the open world are absolutely insane. I've heard Mario Paint, Mario
I
Galaxy,
know. I
Super
know.
Mario Sunshine, Donkey Kong Country, so many deep cuts, and there's no jukebox.
I
Why?
know.
Why have you done this to me, Nintendo?
Gosh. It's frustrating. It really is. Like, I wish they would have done something because, I mean, I totally agree with you. The soundtrack is like unbelievable.
Yeah, I there are so many fun songs. I can only hope that they add it to Nintendo Music. Which, quick aside about Nintendo Music, can we get like a dedicated Nintendo Music app on the Switch too, or a Nintendo Today app on the Switch too? With all these apps coming to the mobile to phones, why aren't they on the console people are getting? Just kind of a, little frustrating thing. But
No, it's
in
totally
terms of,
fair.
yeah, in terms of back to Mario Kart World, the only other issue I had is kind of with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I love the choices of characters, don't get me wrong, but the costumes are great, but certain characters got done dirty. I mean, Pauline only has one costume. I think DK also only has one costume, unless I'm wrong,
Right. Yeah. No, he only has one, and Pauline only has one. Yeah.
which is insane. I don't need a costume for the cow, right? I do not need a cow to wear some elaborate, trench coat or whatever you would wear. But I feel like the options are pretty limited, and I wish that there was, as you said, more creativity with unlocking both the characters and the carts. And the carts themselves are great. I actually really like that they got rid of the customization and just focus on actual, like, dedicated carts. Um, and they're pretty fun to play around with. I think my favorite, I love the Rob Hog. That one's a fun one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
overall, oh, you go.
I was just gonna say it's one of those things, man. It's like there's a lot of great in this game, but there's a few pieces that really hold it back from being amazing.
Definitely. I think it is a great start to the Switch 2. I think it is the perfect game they could have released to get people sold on the console on day one, and the sales are definitely reflecting that. But it is not perfect. And I'm
No.
fully expecting some DLC support in the future. And, there's a part of me that is a bit bummed that, they have to save DLC content for later. But at the same time, despite all my issues, if this was the game, if this was the how it released and there were no new additions added to it, I don't think I would be too mad. Granted, there are a lot of things missing, but as a whole, I think Mario Kart World is a great time. And even if it's not this perfect game compared to a lot of other racing games you can get nowadays, I will make an argument that it is easily the biggest step forward for the franchise, if not
Hmm.
probably the best game in the franchise so far.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. I mean, I think that Mario Kart 7 to 8. I'm not gonna say that it wasn't innovative, but it was definitely like just an evolution of more of the same. And this, I love that they just basically took everything from Mario Kart 8 and just chucked it out the window and started from scratch. I think that's great. So,
Yeah.
the beauty is we still have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with all the DLC playable on Switch 2. So we have two Mario Kart games playable on Switch 2. That's not ever going to change. So I'm happy I've got 96 tracks to play in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I got another 30 in Mario Kart World. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what support they have in the future because there's got to be something.
Oh, definitely. And I wouldn't even be surprised with how the game is positioned with the open world if the new carts also add brand new areas on the map. I mean, a new Grand Prix,
Yeah, yeah.
because the map is pretty filled. So, wouldn't be surprising if they added more to that big world. But, back when we were first talking about the Switch 2 and we first saw that little sneak peek of footage, everything we were talking about was partly based on why does Donkey Kong look like that? And now we have a game where we actually get to see why Donkey Kong looks, well, not why, but that new design in all its glory. So let's finally, I think, talk about DK Bananza.
Yeah, let's do it. So, DK Bonanza, guys, we're gonna have to see. We've got a game called Death Stranding 2 coming out next week that I've been waiting for 6 years. So we're gonna have to see. But game of the year is between Death Stranding 2 and Donkey Kong Bonanza. I'm just gonna say it. Like I've been waiting for years for an actual, like legitimate Donkey Kong game. I mean, the last one we got was in 2014, Tropical Freeze, right? This is a 3D game. I mean, this game, man. This was rumored back in 2020 that there was a 3D Donkey Kong game in development for Switch, and I firmly believe this is what it was, and they just moved it to Switch 2. But this game looks absolutely incredible. I was sold from the reveal, but seeing that direct, it's like this game looks ginormous and looks 18 times better than I ever thought it was going to be, and it's legitimately the prequel to Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty blown away. I've heard this thrown around quite a bit, but I completely agree with the argument that this could be the best direct that we've gotten for a single game
Easily.
ever.
Easily.
Yeah. Um because I was sold, as you said, I was sold from the first trailer, but everything shown in this new trailer blew my mind. I We kind of had suspicions about Pauline for one reason or another. Um and but seeing her like that, I thought it was going to be time travel. I was not expecting it for it to be a 13-year-old Pauline actually with DK. And I think the reveal is kind of equivalent to how Odyssey kept the capture mechanic a secret for a while, because
Mm-hmm.
all of the footage they showed at that initial direct with Oddrock has been replaced with Pauline, so I figure it was just a placeholder. I think Pauline is introduced very, very, very early into the game.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I think my favorite discussion though coming out of that was people talking about Mario lore, which one, I don't think Nintendo cares about Mario lore. Quite frankly, I don't think they care that
No.
much about Zelda lore, to be honest, which I know is a hot take, but Tears of the Kingdom has its own ideas. And two, to be fair, if we do actually look at it from a lore perspective, Donkey Kong, Diddy, Dixie, and Cranky have never interacted with Mario in a mainline game or any Mario adjacent character in a mainline game since the very first Donkey Kong game on the arcade.
Yep.
So, we can easily make some inferences there that Pauline is around and the same age as Mario potentially. Like this is happening at the same time as Yoshi's Island. Who knows? But that reveal was so much fun, and everything with the gameplay just looks so addicting. I just know trying to get 100% in that game is going to be the worst and most fun experience on the console. It's going to make looking for moons like a cakewalk,
Oh,
because I
dude, for
know
real.
I'm just going to be obsessively breaking every single object until the entire land looks like a apocalypse. I cannot wait. And even the modes introduced, I was not expecting a spiritual successor to the Nintendo 64 Mario's stretching out Mario thing.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy, dude. Like and also, so we could talk about like, the Bonanza transformations, right? So they showed off that he can get different powers and transform into them. There are two more that we haven't seen. Like I still don't think we've seen barely anything for the game. And they had a menu where they kind of showed it's really unique. Like you basically go to the center of the world and all the different layers are all kinds of different worlds. And there was a menu that they showed kind of the map, then it showed like each layer. It looks like there's like 20, and like we've seen like seven. Like,
Yeah, I think they're keeping a lot of this game under wraps. I will say, I love the new amiibo, looks great, but I couldn't help but notice that of all the amiibo they highlighted, K. Rule
the
was
goat,
right there.
he has
Yeah.
to be here. He had when this rumor came out for the 3D Donkey Kong game, it said that K. Rule was in it back in the day. And K. Rool's return in Smash was one of the greatest things ever. I don't care what people say. That trailer was incredible. And I'm telling you, like, he's going to be here. He has to be here. It's time for Nintendo to make K. Rool like a legitimate, presence once again. I mean, after all these years.
Yeah,
But I will
especially
say,
with. Oh, you go.
oh, it's so sorry. I was just gonna say, I will say, like, I think with K. Rule coming back and just everything, and I know you talked about like that this being the best direct for a single game, and I totally agree. Like, I've seen people online that had no interest in this game play, like, oh, I have to play this. Like, this looks incredible, and it's like I think that this is going to be the game. This game is going to be for Donkey Kong what Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and Kirby and the Forgotten Land were for those franchises.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is going to be a new reinvention for the character. I mean, you can tell by the design. And I would not be surprised if this paves the way for this to be the Donkey Kong game that a lot of people pull from. I mean, I joked about it with some friends of mine, but I would not be surprised if one of the first DLC characters added in for Mario Kart World is baby Pauline, teenage
Yeah,
Pauline. I don't
yeah, I
know.
could see it. No, I could totally see it.
Yeah, but I think that will be fun, and in general, just the gameplay looks so addicting. I think the my favorite, underrated part was how you could just randomly stick objects to walls,
Mm-hmm.
and that was crazy. And also, I think this is a very interesting point. You kind of get the sense that this whole game, because it's absolutely made by the Odyssey team. There is no question in
Yes.
my mind. Just the world design and the way certain
The
objects look.
UI,
Yep, the
everything. Yep.
UI. It all reeks of Odyssey in the best way. But I think part of this game was kind of built off of what they kind of did with the final segment of Odyssey with Bowser.
Mm-hmm.
I think is sort of built on that concept and sort of taking it to its limits. And if so, bring it on, because this is definitely the game to get on the Switch too. And there's more to come. I mean, we've got Metroid Prime 4, which will be on
Right.
both the Switch and Switch 2, Tomodachi Life next year, Pokemon this year,
And
which,
let's remember, the 3D Mario game is coming next year.
oh yeah,
It is. But I totally agree with you. This is the Odyssey team, and I think Kenta Motsukura, who he's the guy who directed 3D World and Odyssey, and was like he was lead since like Sunshine. He's had a big role. I think it's Sunshine, but he's definitely the director of Donkey Kong. And if he's not, it's someone from that team that they're kind of, I don't know. Well, there is actually a rumor, and I want to touch on this briefly. There is a rumor that the younger staff of the Odyssey team were spun off into a new team, and that's who made this game. And this is a new team within the Mario EPD team that is only focused on Donkey Kong.
hmm, that would be very interesting. And I would love to see what else they cook, because Donkey Kong has been kind of neglected in the
Very
past
much
10
so.
years. So,
I feel
with
I think Nintendo has to. They have to focus on Donkey Kong because they just built a theme park after him. Like,
that is true. And he played a big role in the movie.
yep.
Thank you, Seth Rogen. But yeah, I think that's going to be the big game. And I it looks so much fun, and I'm gonna get so addicted to playing it. I just know when that comes out that I will not leave my house ever, or I'll probably just drag it with me to work. But yeah, I've been so surprised by the Switch too, and kind of what they're planning. I was fully expecting us to get a new Nintendo Direct this month, but instead we got a Donkey Kong Direct and a Shadow Drop Splatoon announcement, which I was not expecting.
That was really weird. And the Nintendo Today stuff is so dumb. I'm so sorry. And like I don't understand. Like, oh, don't take screenshots. It's like it's really dumb. I don't get it at all. So I'm hoping that they move past this stuff, but we'll see. I will say I do think that there is going to be a direct of some sort here in the next couple of weeks. I'm not gonna say it's a first party direct, but I just feel like that there have to be third party announcements that need to be made for the next 2 months that just aren't dated yet. And Nintendo needs to serve that. So I would expect that we'll maybe get like a partner showcase or something, but I don't know. I think I don't know. It's tough because also the other thing, the Splatoon game is rated, which means that it's coming out in the next couple months. So I don't really know. It's a very weird. We're in a very weird time right now. But I will say like I feel like a direct should happen. I don't know if it will, but if it doesn't, I still think that there are a ton of third party announcements that need to be made.
Yeah, there's a lot of announcements in general that we're still missing out on. I mean, we still don't know when Metroid Prime 4 is coming out for one,
Or
and
Kirby or anything.
or
Yeah.
Kirby. Yeah, Kirby Air Riders. I don't believe that's coming out this year at all, but we'll see. And also, I think there is this interesting thing. There was a billboard in London for Metroid Prime 4 that says out
Yep.
now, which makes no sense. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's just some placeholder thing or a mistake, but if there's no way they do, but it would be so funny if they shadow drop Metroid Prime 4. The the daring decision to do that would, I don't know how that would work, but
Yeah,
Nintendo has done daring decisions.
I was sitting here when I saw that, like, dude, there's no way they're doing this. And I was like, that would be the craziest thing they've ever done, just shadow dropping that game. But then I started to look more closely at the poster, and you can actually see if you look under the out now thing, there's actually a little tag, like another graphic under that. So I think what accidentally happened is whoever had the Photoshop accidentally pasted the Mario Kart World thing on top of the 2025 box. And so
Oh,
that's what
yeah.
happened. But yeah,
Yeah,
that would be crazy. I still think that game's coming out in like October.
definitely. I think I would not be surprised if they, I know it's close to Legend Zeta A, but if they go for a Halloween-esque release similar to
Uh
what they
huh.
did with Dread, would be awesome. I think that'd be a perfect decision for a game like Prime 4, which we've been waiting for so long. It doesn't even feel real that it's months away from coming out. And I'm so thrilled to see what the Switch Nintendo does with the Switch 2, because there is a big portion of time, as you said, that is completely unaccounted for from September, no, even August. Do we have anything from the Switch coming out in August? I don't think we do.
Yes, we do. We have Kirby Forgotten Land Switch 2 plus Starcross World on the 28th.
That's right. And also, Party is
But
in July.
yes, yes. But I do think that we will get another game in August in some shape or form.
Yeah, August to October and also December are pretty empty when it comes to Switch 2 games, and I would not be surprised if we get maybe one or two first party games. At the very least, I think Dragon Drive will probably come out soon. I don't see that being a game that Nintendo needs to do that much more work on. It would be weird if it came out in 2026, but yeah, I mean, there are so many things that I can't wait to see. So many games that I know are coming at some point that were rumored or have been rumored. Kirby Planet Robobot is still missing in action, um, and yeah, I think we're in a kind of historic time for Nintendo, and with how good Mario Kart World turned out and how good DK Bananza is looking, I could not be more excited to see what Nintendo is cooking.
I couldn't either, and I don't think you could have said and wrapped up this episode better. So, with that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 14 of Switch Point. Be sure to let us know down in the comments what you're feeling about Switch 2 so far, what you thought about the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct. And yeah, we will catch you on the next episode. See ya.